Hey guys, welcome back to Tiny Disneyland. In today's episode, I built and finished Peter Pan's Flight. So this was a wonderful little build, so come along with me and I'll show you how I designed and built it and was able to put it in such a tight space. So let's get on to the time lapse. Okay, let's get started on the first couple things to do to building Peter Pan's Flight. So, some history lessons for Peter Pan's Flight. So, Peter Pan's Flight debuted in 1955, so that opened with the park opening. And that ride is completely different from what the ride we now know at the park at the moment. So, from 1955 to 1982, the ride actually had no Peter Pan audio animatronic, because the idea was that you were Peter Pan as the rider. And so that confused guests for that long. So until 1982 when they did the Fantasyland redo, because Fantasyland didn't look like Fantasyland what it used to be today. Fantasyland actually looked like a carnival. So all the facades for all the dark rides were like tents with striped coloring. It was quite ugly. So in 1982 they decided to do a complete remodel. By 1983 it opened. It was like they just basically made facades for all the rides. That also means that they actually, I think, moved the carousel back a couple feet or even more to make a bigger entryway from the castle. And then all the facades were kind of brought closer to the walkway to kind of make it look like a little European village. So I'm mimicking my Peter Pan's Flight to that. That was the main thought process. So in my game, or in the Tiny Disneyland, I knew I had to take some liberties to the building because the actual building in real life is actually at a diagonal. So in that case, Parkitect is on grid. So I straightened it out, decided to build the clock tower first. So this is basically the part of the building you enter first when you enter the queue. And this kind of also dictated where the rest of the show building will go. Building a dark ride of this size is actually quite difficult, but I'm quite surprised that I was able to fit it in there. Now, having the rule set that I have put in the beginning of this project being a toy-like diorama type of build has made it quite easy to kind of change up some of the features and details that I don't have to necessarily follow. But I wanted to make sure that I had all the right points of interest. So the clock tower being in the front here, building the facade to kind of cover up the show building, and then have one show scene. I already dictated actually way in the beginning that the Fantasyland rides will all get one show scene for each ride. And so for this one, I decided to choose the London scene because I think that was more iconic than, let's say, flying over Neverland. So that was the actual choice of that. Some of the pieces using in here, like for the tower, the hexagon piece is really great for like that ironwork, truss work going up, or like a thing. Okay, so the next thing to work on would be, the roofing of the building and the shape of said facade. Now, the architecture for this building, I'd say it's like a mix between, it has to be London, European-esque architecture. I'm not really sure if there's an actual name for it. I could have looked it up before recording, but regardless, it's just kind of a simple European style. Again, I'm just copying what I have as reference shots. So I just went on Google, found some images of the ride. I went and played a little bit of the Disneyland Adventure game because that has a 3D. That's basically a 3D model of said ride. So I just looked at some of the details and then decided what details I was going to copy and not copy because of the limitations of Parkitect. But again, that's how everything goes in this project. I decide what is important, what's not important. So I'm just doing your simple detailing work on the top of the building, your border work. And yeah, the things that I actually want to talk about, like the things I removed from this build would be, so when you actually enter through Fantasyland through the castle, there's a cottage off to the right. That is a gift shop of some sort, I think, for selling antique fake weaponry like swords and maces and shields. And I think you can also buy a family crest there. That shop was removed in my project because I don't need it. There's really no point of having it. So I cut that out, and then basically this building's up against the castle. That's basically what happens here, because I'm deciding what gets deleted. So that was removed, and then that basically dictates where Peter Pan will sit, and then eventually, as I later go down this corridor of dark rides, I have to hit Mr. Toad's Wild Ride and Alice in Wonderland. That will be fun later too, because I want to build, I think, the rest of the dark rides at this point, because I like this project of working on these little dark rides, like little vignettes of the dark rides that I've known for years. So you can just see I'm just adding more of the facade buildings and details that just give that European look and cottage look, because I think all the buildings in Fantasyland had to be like a village of some sort, not necessarily like with Peter Pan it can't look like London, because that's a city, not a village. So the buildings kind of have to bounce off of already the castle being there, and then going from there. So also when researching the Peter Pan stuff, I looked into how many attractions there are that are around the world. I think there's 5. So 1 at Disneyland, 1 at Magic Kingdom, 1 in Tokyo Disneyland, 1 in Disneyland Paris, and 1 in Shanghai. I didn't know there was 1 in Shanghai. I just found out about this. It's so funny. And yeah, Shanghai's one is actually quite impressive. It's the most modern version of this ride. It has so many cool little effects. So I would suggest you guys go look it up on YouTube. So some POVs, and so actually pretty nice. I did learn on the wiki, where did I see this? That the Disneyland version, so when they built the ride back in 1955, that ride had to be completely made up. Like everything about that ride had to be invented. So the track system was made by a Cleveland Land Tram Rail Company and Arrow Development. So that makes sense that Arrow would be involved, because Arrow made Matterhorn and some of the vehicles down Main Street, I think. And yeah, so they had to invent everything. So in this case, a suspended dark ride had to be that case. So in Parkitect, we have an inverted dark ride. So I use that as my sailing boat, but I don't have a boat car, but it doesn't matter. This is also just a game. And this is the closest thing I got. So I built the track layout very quickly. It's a very simple loop around, back out, and then back to the station. It's a very small blueprint. I'm trying to make it as small as possible. And on to building the actual scene that I wanted to portray, which would be flying over London. And I think this was the fun one to do, because I wanted to imitate the streets, and then to have Big Ben and the clock tower as your centerpiece, and then you just fly around it. So you can see here I just placed down a couple blocks to kind of help me dictate where that's going to go, and then put down the river. I think is it the Thames River? Oh, I think it's the Thames, I think. London, right? Yeah, that would make sense. So I just built a very simple clock tower, and it's all in blue, because in a dark ride, everything is like in neon paint, because the black light effects off of it. So I was imitating that. So I made it blue, had the orange lights coming from the windows, kind of like a little cartoony. And I made a big on purpose, because the one at Disneyland kind of like bows up as it goes up. Yeah, as it gets taller, kind of just, it's very cartoonish. So I kind of imitated that here too. And then here's the clock tower pieces that I used. Fun fact about Parkitect, the clocks pieces, I think I've probably mentioned this 100 times now at this point, but the clock actually represents your system clock. So whatever you're doing, that clock actually represents your time, your current time, which is kind of cool. I think it's a really cool feature they added. Over here was a quick palette test of lighting that I wanted to do. So orb lights for the win. I want to say I've already placed millions of these orb lights now in the whole project, because you have to count Main Street. All of those have been placed. Now putting down this dark ride, they have all been placed. So I think it's just a little crazy that how much I've put down. And if I want to build an electrical parade, that's going to even be more put down. And I think I'm going to build electrical parade actually at the end of this project, because that would actually make sense to have a parade now open as Tiny Disneyland kind of finishes and concludes. So that was kind of it. So the London townscape or cityscape was just dots on the floor that represent, I think, street lights, and then some of the lights are kind of like the shape of the buildings, more like it's actually the shape of the roads. So I kind of just imitated that with all the lights, and then had 3 different colors, yellow, bluish, and a red tint, because for some reason there's a red tint in the dark ride. I don't know what the red tint's for, but if you look at pictures of online, it kind of matches really well. I might actually put up a picture of it anyway. Here's a picture of what I was trying to imitate, and I think I did a pretty good job on doing that. The thing that I was daunting to work on and kind of concerning for me was to trigger the lights for the street. I will talk about that actually in my tour, because I was banging my head against the wall, figuring it out, and then I figured out that the solution was actually simpler than I thought. And sometimes that happens when you're working on a project like this. Sometimes you overthink it, and then you're like, why did I think that? Why did I go over the top when the solution was actually the simplest? So there you go. I put down the streets basically ready for that to be triggered, because this scene needed to be animated, because there's no question about it. And then the last couple things for this building was, or the scene, was to add the rest of the clouds, and then the 2 stars that you need, the second star to the right, that I needed that to kind of to suggest we're going to Neverland. So yeah, I'm going to leave you guys here. We're going to meet you over into the break and show you what the ride looks like in its full glory. Okay, let's get on to showing you up some close-up details and some things I need to talk about, because I cut things out from the time-lapse. So I want to talk about the effects controller on how I did the street. The street oh my gosh, the street was more complicated than it should have been because I wasn't thinking straight. So you can see here, the street is moving, it's doing its traffic key thingy, and the thing that's actually happening is just the lights are alternating back and forth. That's all they're doing. Because originally I was trying to make them actually, let me show you the actual trigger. So these are all the lights actually just lined up all together on 1 second, actually half a second, because it's not even a second, isn't it? It's like 50, half a second. I just turned one on for it disabled, the other one enabled. That means disabled means the light's off right before it starts, and this one means the light will turn on when it enables. So it just goes back and forth. So all I did was just stagger them and made the street look like it's moving. Now, if you take your eyes and you actually follow a dot, then you'll see that, oh, the street's moving. You can do that because that's basically what it does, and your eye kind of like freaks out. It's kind of like an optical illusion, but actually just from a distance, you can tell the street's doing its thing. It's moving, and that's kind of what was the whole objective. Because I was making it too complicated with the FX controller. Let me show you again. Oh, this one's empty. Oh yeah, I was going to have 2, and then I deleted 1. Okay, I should just delete that. Yeah, I'll just delete that one. So actually, let me show you. Okay, that's this one, yeah. So originally when I was designing the triggers, I actually did individually add them in a line and made it like a 2-digit thing. It just didn't, that was going to take too long, and I would probably have gone mad placing lights everywhere. I'm already doing a lot of orb lights in this park in general. Just doing this, the map of London, you want to say, this took about, I want to say an hour. Placing down every one. 40 minutes. 45. But doing the triggers took an additional 30 to 40 minutes. So an hour in total to build this wonderful little diorama of London. But at the end of it, it turned out wonderful. Because it really does scream London. And then I have little stars here. So second star to the right, onto morning, or until morning is the actual line. Did those out of orbs, and then I just called it a day. It looks really snazzy and cool, and just, it screams Peter Pan. And let's see here, let's see, close-ups here. Oh, actually, I should put a, nah, I don't need to, because they would not actually exist. So, here's the front of Peter Pan's flight. A very good representation of the Dark Ride's facade. So, I think it looks really nice. It's just simple. It picks off the points of what the ride is. You got your tower, you got your queue line here. And I was surprised how much I was able to cram in this space. Again, that's why having that rule set of being a tiny Disneyland or a toy-like park, I don't have to go full detail, and I do love that I don't have that restraint. But I also have the other rule is that this has to be recognizable, and from a distance, it is Peter Pan's flight. So the next couple projects, because I said in the last video I was going to do New Orleans, but I got bored with that. I will probably touch it when I want to later, when I feel like it. Or I'll force myself, either or. But I'm really liking the dark ride feel. And I want to build next Mr. Toad's and Alice in Wonderland. That will go here. And then I'll figure out where the placement of the teacups will go. And once that building is set, that actually helps me figure out the distance between that building and Matterhorn. And then this area can actually be finalized. I can just put up a fence and then call it a day. Because Matterhorn's done. I built this a while ago as a blueprint. So I just need to finish the pathways around it, add some fences, and then call it. So once that's down, that will kind of solidify where the carousel's going to go also. Because that's where I need to figure out is the carousel. That's the issue. This will also help me figure out where Dumbo will go and Casey Jr. And then once I get the one side of Fantasyland done, I might venture off to do Snow White and Pinocchio, which will be another good set of dark rides. And at this point, maybe Fantasyland will be done by the end of the year. Cross our fingers, or earlier. Or I just jumped off to another project. Because I've also been thinking about touching Critter Country, see how that's going to look if I touch that. Just to see how that would finish this corner out. Or I can finish the Tom Sawyer's Island, which would actually work too, because I actually would finish this island and then solidify that too. Actually, I would probably do that too. I got so many other places I can jump, but here's Peter Pan's flight again. Here's look at it at night time one more time. This looks really nice. Yeah, and using the inverted dark ride worked out pretty well because we don't have inverted pirate ships in this game, but the inverted dark ride kind of suggests that yeah, this is the Peter Pan's flight. So it looks really nice. I like the lighting in the streets. Really adds a lot of character to said dark ride. But yeah, I'm going to let you guys go. So next project should either be Alice in Wonderland and Mr. Toad's, or I jump off to another part of the park and work on something else. Because I also said I was going to do Electrical Parade and a Disneyland tram. I could still do a Disneyland tram off hours. Actually, I can just build one and just place it. Yeah, I might just do that. So, I'm going to let you go. So, thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next Disneyland episode. See you later. Bye.